The encrypted transmission crackled through the Meridian's communication array at 3:47 hours, jolting Dr. Elena Vasquez from her restless sleep in the cramped quarters she shared with three other researchers. The emergency beacon's shrill whine cut through the ship's ambient hum like a plasma cutter through titanium, and Elena found herself stumbling toward the bridge before her conscious mind had fully processed the alert. "Artemis, what's the nature of the transmission?" she asked, her voice still thick with sleep as she pulled on her standard-issue jumpsuit. "Dr. Vasquez, the signal originates from Kepler 442b, specifically from the abandoned Meridian Mining Consortium facility," the ship's AI replied in its characteristically detached tone. "However, I must note that according to all official records, the facility has been uninhabited for 3 years, 2 months, and 17 days. Elena's bare feet slapped against the cold metal flooring as she hurried through the corridor, her mind racing. The mining colony had been evacuated after a series of unexplained equipment failures that corporate had deemed economically unviable to investigate. Translation: people were spooked, productivity plummeted, and the bean counters pulled the plug. The bridge was eerily quiet except for the soft whir of processing units and the occasional beep from monitoring stations. Captain Morrison stood at the central console, his graying hair disheveled and his expression grim. Jenkins, her research partner, was already hunched over the communications terminal, his perpetually messy brown hair sticking up at impossible angles. "Elena, thank God," Morrison said without turning around. "We need your expertise on this one." She moved to Jenkins' shoulder and peered at the screen. The footage was grainy, shot through with static interference, but unmistakably showed a humanoid figure moving through what appeared to be the colony's main corridor. The timestamp indicated the recording was made less than 6 hours ago. "Could be a squatter," Jenkins offered, pushing his thick-rimmed glasses up his nose. "Maybe someone decided the abandoned facility made for good real estate." "Negative," Artemis interjected. "The planet's atmosphere requires environmental suits for human survival. The figure in the recording shows no evidence of protective equipment." Elena felt her pulse quicken. She enhanced the image, adjusting contrast and brightness, trying to make out more details. The figure moved with an odd grace, almost gliding rather than walking. There was something about the proportions that seemed slightly off, though she couldn't quite pinpoint what. "Run a biometric analysis," she instructed the computer. "Working," Artemis replied. After a moment, "humanoid structure confirmed. Height approximately 17 meters. However, several anatomical measurements fall outside standard human parameters." Jenkins leaned closer to the screen, accidentally knocking over his coffee mug in the process. The hot liquid splashed across the console, causing several warning lights to flash red. "Brilliant, Jenkins," Elena muttered, grabbing a handful of absorbent cloths from the emergency kit. "Artemis, damage report. Communications array functioning at 97% efficiency. Dr. Jenkins' coordination protocols appear to be operating at their usual 30% capacity." Even Captain Morrison cracked a smile at that. Jenkins had the remarkable ability to find the one piece of critical equipment on any given day and accidentally destroy it, usually while trying to be helpful. Last week, he'd managed to recalibrate the gravity generator while attempting to water Elena's plants, resulting in everyone floating upside down for 2 hours while engineering sorted out the mess. "Very funny," Jenkins grumbled, dabbing at his shirt with a towel. "At least I didn't spend yesterday arguing with the food processor about the nutritional value of synthetic coffee." "That was important research," Elena protested, but she was studying the screen again, frame by frame. There, in the third frame, something caught the artificial lighting. The figure's silhouette showed what looked like elongated ears, pointed and definitely not human. Her breath caught. "Morrison, I need to get down there." The captain's expression hardened. "Absolutely not. We don't know what we're dealing with." Exactly why I need to investigate. Alina turned to face him, her dark eyes intense. Captain, if this is what I think it is, we're looking at first contact. This could be the discovery of the century. Or it could be a trap, Morrison countered. Or some kind of bioengineered organism left over from the mining operation. Corporate was never transparent about what they were doing down there. Jenkins piped up from his position crouched beside the console, still mopping up coffee. Maybe it's just a really tall human with weird hair. I mean, fashion trends have gotten pretty extreme lately. Remember when everyone was getting those cranial ridge implants? Jenkins, that was 3 centuries ago, Alina said patiently. Time flies when you're having fun. Artemis's voice cut through their discussion. Dr. Vasquez, I have completed enhanced analysis of the footage. The subject displays locomotive patterns inconsistent with human gait mechanics. Additionally, thermal imaging suggests a body temperature approximately 2 degrees below human normal. Alina felt her excitement building despite the obvious risks. Every scientific instinct she possessed was screaming that this was important, potentially groundbreaking. She'd spent her entire career studying the possibility of extraterrestrial life, analyzing atmospheric compositions and soil samples for trace biosignatures. The closest she'd come to actual alien life was a microorganism that might have been indigenous to Europa, though the peer review committee remained skeptical. I can put together a small reconnaissance team, she said to Morrison. Just myself and Jenkins, minimal equipment. We go in quiet, observe from a distance, gather data. And if it's hostile, Morrison asked. Alina paused, considering. The figure in the footage had moved without apparent urgency or aggression. If anything, there had been something almost peaceful about its movements, the way it seemed to be. Lyra's fingers moved through the soil with practiced precision, coaxing life from the hybrid seeds she'd managed to cultivate over the past 18 months. The hydroponics bay hummed around her, a symphony of recycling pumps and atmospheric processors that she'd learned to repair through trial and considerable error. The earth plants responded to her touch in ways that still surprised her. Tomatoes growing twice their normal size, lettuce leaves that shimmered with an almost metallic sheen, and flowers that bloomed in colors that had no names in any human language. She paused in her work, her elongated ears twitching at a sound that didn't belong to the facility's usual mechanical chorus. Footsteps, multiple sets, moving with the careful deliberation of people trying to be stealthy and failing spectacularly at it. Artemis, are you monitoring external communications? She asked the facility's subsidiary AI, which she'd managed to partially reactivate after months of tinkering with its neural pathways. Affirmative, Lyra. 2 shuttles have landed approximately 12 kilometers from the main entrance. I'm detecting 4 human life signs, standard exploration gear, and what appears to be a portable coffee brewing system. Lyra couldn't help but smile at that last detail. During her time monitoring human transmissions, she developed a fascination with their apparent dependence on caffeinated beverages. Her own people sustained themselves on synthesized nutrients that were perfectly efficient and completely flavorless. The human concept of drinking something purely for pleasure struck her as delightfully illogical. She made her way to the security monitoring station, her bare feet silent on the metal flooring. The screens flickered to life, showing her the approaching team. 2 figures in environmental suits moved with obvious scientific purpose, their movements careful and methodical. A third person appeared to be examining everything with handheld scanning devices, while the fourth seemed to be struggling with a large equipment case that kept tilting at dangerous angles. Artemis, can you patch into their communication frequency? Already done. Shall I activate the translation protocols? Please. Lyra settled into the monitoring chair, pulling her knees up to her chest as she watched the humans navigate the facility's outer corridors. Their voices crackled through the speakers, distorted by the environmental suits but still comprehensible. Alina, I think I'm reading some kind of energy signature from the hydroponics section, one of them was saying. The voice belonged to a woman, and something in its tone made Lyra lean forward with interest. What kind of signature, Rodriguez? Another voice responded, presumably Alina. It's like nothing I've seen before. The plants are showing photosynthetic rates that should be impossible given the available light spectrum. Lyra felt a flutter of pride. The bioluminescent enhancement she developed was working better than expected. By introducing trace amounts of her own cellular material into the soil matrix, she'd created a symbiotic relationship that allowed the plants to process light more efficiently. Her people would have considered it a minor agricultural adjustment, but apparently humans found it remarkable. Jenkins, stop trying to scan everything and watch where you're going. Alina's voice carried a note of fond exasperation. I'm being careful, protested what was obviously Jenkins. It's just that this tricorder keeps beeping at things and I want to know why. Oh, crater dust, what is that? Through the monitors, Lyra watched one of the figures stumble backward from something, waving his scanner wildly. She zoomed in and realized he'd encountered her latest artistic project, a crystalline formation she'd grown using mineral samples from the planet's crust. The crystals formed fractal patterns that resonated with specific sound frequencies, creating what her people called harmony sculptures. It appears to be some kind of geological formation, Rodriguez was saying, her voice filled with scientific curiosity. But the molecular structure doesn't match anything in the planetary survey. Maybe the mining operations caused some kind of unique crystallization process, suggested a fourth voice. Jenkins was still backing away from the crystals, which had begun to emit a soft, melodic humming in response to his scanner's electromagnetic field. It's singing, he announced. The rocks are definitely singing. That's not normal, right? Please tell me that's not normal. Lyra pressed her hand to her mouth to stifle a laugh. The harmony sculpture was responding exactly as designed, creating music from the interaction of different energy fields. She'd intended it as a welcome gift for any visitors, but apparently humans found musical geology unsettling. Alina, we need to document this, Rodriguez was saying. If there's some kind of unknown mineral process happening here. Later, Alina interrupted. Right now we need to focus on finding our mysterious inhabitant. The mention of herself as a mysterious inhabitant sent a thrill through Lyra. She'd been watching the human transmissions for weeks, learning their languages and cultural patterns with the rapid adaptability her species was known for. Alina's voice had become familiar to her, featured prominently in the scientific logs and personal communications she'd intercepted. There was something about the human woman's dedication to understanding the unknown that resonated deeply with Lyra's own curiosity. Artemis, prepare a gift package, she said softly. What kind of gift package? Something that will intrigue them without frightening them. Mathematical proofs, perhaps. Humans seem to find comfort in numbers. She moved through the facility with fluid grace, gathering materials for her first intentional contact with the exploration team. From her personal collection, she selected several items. A sequence of prime numbers carved into polished stone, a small flowering plant that couldn't possibly exist naturally on this world, and a collection of star charts that showed stellar positions with accuracy beyond current human capability. The mathematics would prove intelligence. The plant would demonstrate biological knowledge. The star charts would hint at technological advancement while raising questions about her origins. It was a careful balance, enough to fascinate, not enough to threaten. Through the monitors, she watched Jenkins separate from the group, his scanner leading him in circles as he tried to track the facility's various energy signatures. His equipment seemed to have a particular fascination with the cafeteria, where Lyra had established food storage using preservation techniques that were apparently confusing his instruments. Guys, I'm getting some really weird readings from the kitchen area, Jenkins announced over the comm. It's like something's generating a localized stasis field, But that's impossible because stasis technology doesn't exist yet. Define doesn't exist yet, Alina responded. Well, theoretically it's possible, but the energy requirements would be enormous, and the engineering challenges. Jenkins' explanation was cut off by a loud crash, followed by creative profanity. Status report, Jenkins. I may have accidentally walked into a wall while gesticulating about theoretical physics. Also, I think I broke something important looking. Lyra winced. The something important looking was probably her water reclamation system, which she'd spent weeks calibrating. She watched Jenkins examine the damaged equipment with obvious distress, his shoulders slumped in dejection. Making a quick decision, she activated the facility's internal communication system. Using the translation protocols Artemis had developed, she composed a simple message in carefully constructed English. Repair instructions. Red conduit connects to blue junction. System will restore automatically. The message appeared on a wall display near Jenkins, who jumped backward in surprise, tripped over his own feet, and landed in an undignified heap on the floor. Alina, he called out, his voice slightly muffled, you need to see this. Within minutes, the rest of the team had converged on Jenkins' location. Lyra watched their faces through the security cameras as they studied her message, their expressions ranging from excitement to caution. Someone's here, Alina said quietly. Someone who speaks English and understands our technology. Or something, Rodriguez added. The linguistic patterns are almost too perfect. It's like the message was generated. Alina stared at the mathematical sequence carved into the polished stone, her mind racing through the implications. The prime numbers weren't just arranged in order. They followed a pattern that demonstrated understanding of quantum mathematics that humanity wouldn't achieve for another century, if current theoretical models were correct. Whoever had left this gift possessed knowledge that made human scientific achievement look like finger painting. Rodriguez, are you getting readings on this plant? She asked, carefully holding the impossible flowering specimen. The petals shifted through colors that shouldn't exist in nature, and the stem felt warm to the touch despite the facility's cool atmosphere. Biological scans show cellular structures I've never seen before, Rodriguez replied, her voice tight with excitement. The chlorophyll variants are processing light at efficiency rates of nearly 90%. Alina, this thing is photosynthesizing at levels that violate everything we know about plant biology. Jenkins continued his impromptu concert with the harmony stones, which were now producing sounds that seemed to respond to his emotional state. When he felt curious, they chimed with bright, questioning tones. When he stumbled over his own feet, which happened frequently, they produced what could only be described as sympathetic sighs. I think they're empathic, he announced, waving his scanner enthusiastically. The crystals are reading my biorhythms and adjusting their resonance patterns accordingly. It's like having a geological therapist. That's scientifically impossible, Rodriguez protested. So is this plant, but here we are, Alina murmured, studying the star charts their mysterious host had provided. The stellar positions were mapped with precision that required technology far beyond human capability, showing star systems they hadn't even discovered yet. A soft chime echoed through the corridor, and another message appeared on the wall display. The humans are careful with gifts. This shows respect. Would Alina like to see the garden where impossible things grow? Alina's pulse quickened. Direct communication, an invitation to go deeper into the facility. Every scientific instinct she possessed was screaming that this was the opportunity of a lifetime. We accept, she typed back on the display's interface, surprised to find it responded to her touch. Follow the blue lights. Mind the step in corridor 7, it is loose and causes falling. Almost immediately, a series of soft blue lights began illuminating a path through the facility's maze-like structure. Alina shouldered her equipment pack and gestured for her team to follow. I love that our mysterious alien friend is concerned about safety hazards, Jenkins commented, carefully testing each step as they walked. It shows consideration for human clumsiness, which in my case is definitely a survival concern. They moved through corridors that had clearly been modified from their original design. Standard mining facility architecture had been enhanced with flowing curves and organic shapes that seemed to pulse with gentle bioluminescence. The air itself felt different, cleaner, richer, as if every breath contained more oxygen than should be possible. "Alina, look at this," Rodriguez called from a side passage. "The atmospheric processors have been completely rebuilt. They're generating air quality that's better than what we have on the ship." "Our host has been busy," Alina replied, but her attention was caught by something else: mirrors. Reflective surfaces had been strategically placed throughout the corridors, angled in ways that created glimpses of movement just at the edge of vision. Someone was watching them, staying just out of direct sight but clearly present. The blue lights led them to a massive chamber that had once been a storage depot, but now housed the most extraordinary garden Alina had ever seen. Plants from dozens of worlds grew in impossible harmony, their roots intertwining in patterns that suggested deliberate cultivation rather than random growth. The air hummed with the sound of growth itself, a subtle vibration that seemed to encourage life at the cellular level. "This is magnificent," Alina breathed, moving carefully between the growing beds. "Rodriguez, are you cataloging this?" "Trying to, but my scanner keeps overloading," Rodriguez replied, adjusting her equipment settings. "The biodiversity here shouldn't be sustainable. These species are from completely different biomes, with incompatible soil and atmospheric requirements." Jenkins had discovered a section of the garden where the plants responded to sound, their leaves rustling in rhythm with his footsteps. "It's like they're dancing," he said, then immediately proved his point by attempting to dance with them and nearly toppling into a bed of what appeared to be carnivorous flowers. "Careful," Alina called out, but the flowers had already reacted, their petals closing gently around Jenkins' flailing arms and steadying him instead of consuming him. "They're friendly carnivorous plants," Jenkins announced with relief. "That's either really good or really terrifying." Another message appeared on a nearby display. "Jenkins has kind intentions but uncertain balance. The flowers will help." Alina found herself smiling, despite the unprecedented nature of their situation. Their mysterious host had a sense of humor and seemed genuinely concerned for their well-being. These weren't the actions of a hostile alien intelligence. "Thank you," she said aloud, addressing the mirrors that she was certain concealed their observer. "This garden is beautiful. How long have you been maintaining it?" 2 years, 3 months, 16 days. Earth plants are more cooperative than expected. They seem to enjoy music." "You've been alone here all this time?" Alina asked, and immediately regretted the question when she realized how presumptuous it sounded. There was a long pause before the response appeared. "Alone is accurate. Ship damaged in atmospheric entry. Repairs are challenging." Alina felt a pang of sympathy. Whatever species their host belonged to, they'd been stranded on this planet for over 2 years, maintaining complex systems and creating beauty in isolation. The technical knowledge required to keep the facility running was impressive, but the emotional resilience was even more remarkable. "We might be able to help with repairs," she offered. "Our ship has engineering capabilities." Human technology is different but interesting. Alina shows kindness to strangers. This is unusual in exploration protocols. Rodriguez shot Alina a meaningful look. "She's right, you know. Standard first contact procedures don't include offering technical assistance to unknown species." Standard first contact procedures were written by people who never actually met an alien, Alina replied. "I'm making this up as I go." Jenkins had found a section of the garden where the plants grew in fractal patterns that seemed to shift when observed directly. "Alina, you need to see this. These flowers are growing in mathematical sequences, but they keep changing the equation." Alina joined him, studying the plant arrangements. The patterns were indeed mathematical, but they seemed to be solving complex theorems in real time, their growth patterns representing solutions to problems that would take human computers hours to process. "Our host is showing off," she said with admiration. "These are living computers. Living computers that smell like cinnamon and apparently enjoy Jenkins' terrible singing," Rodriguez added, as the musical plants began harmonizing with Jenkins' off-key humming. "My singing isn't terrible," Jenkins protested. "It's just creatively interpreted." A new sound joined the botanical symphony: laughter. Clear, melodious, and definitely not human, but unmistakably joyful. The sound seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, echoing through the chamber in ways that suggested advanced acoustic engineering. Alina's breath caught. "That was you, wasn't it? You're listening to us directly." The laughter stopped abruptly, replaced by what could only be described as Alina's hands trembled as she held the neural interface headset, its crystalline components pulsing with soft bioluminescence. 3 days had passed since their first direct meeting with Lyra, and the revelation of her pointed ears had been the least surprising thing about the encounter. What had truly stunned Alina was the depth of intelligence behind those luminous eyes, and the way her heart had skipped when Lyra smiled. "The synaptic bridge will allow temporary shared consciousness," Lyra explained, her voice carrying musical undertones that human vocal cords couldn't reproduce. "My people use it to share complex technical knowledge quickly. Your ship's damaged quantum drive can be repaired, but the process requires understanding that would take years to communicate through language alone." Jenkins sat nearby, still recovering from his encounter with Lyra's medical technology. The healing chamber had fixed his chronic back problems, improved his vision, and somehow made him even more accident-prone, as evidenced by the fact that he'd managed to trip over his own shadow twice that morning. "I still can't believe you fell through the floor," Rodriguez said, shaking her head. "An actual floor, made of solid metal." "It was corroded," Jenkins protested, "and I was distracted by those fascinating mineral formations. Besides, it led to our dramatic rescue scenario, which was very romantically appropriate." Alina felt heat rise in her cheeks. The dramatic rescue had involved both her and Lyra working together to extract Jenkins from the facility's lower levels, and the moment when their hands had touched while operating the improvised pulley system had sent electricity through Alina's entire nervous system. "Artemis, status report on the Meridian *," Alina called out, trying to focus on practical matters. "Captain Morrison is becoming increasingly agitated about your extended mission timeline," the AI replied through the facility's communication system. "He has used the phrase 'gone native' 17 times in the past hour. Also, he's threatening to send a search and rescue team, which, based on his psychological profile, means he's worried about you." Lyra's expression grew troubled. "Military personnel would complicate matters. My ship's defensive systems are still partially functional." "Your ship has defensive systems?" Rodriguez asked with professional interest. "Standard precautions for deep space exploration. Plasma barriers, gravitational displacement fields, selective temporal dilation around critical systems." Lyra paused. "Also, it tends to sing when threatened, which has psychological effects on most species." "A singing spaceship with time manipulation capabilities," Jenkins mused. "That's either the most terrifying or most wonderful thing I've ever heard." Alina made her decision. "Lyra, I need to be direct about something. My original mission parameters included capturing any alien life forms we encountered for study." The chamber fell silent, except for the gentle humming of the garden's life support systems. Lyra's pointed ears drooped slightly, and Alina felt her heart clench at the sight. "But," Alina continued quickly, "those parameters were written by people who assumed any alien contact would be with primitive organisms or hostile entities. They never considered the possibility of meeting someone like you." "Someone like me?" Lyra asked softly. "Someone brilliant, kind, funny, and Alina hesitated, then decided honesty was the only path forward. Someone I've completely fallen for. Rodriguez cleared her throat meaningfully. This is the part where I mention that fraternization with alien species isn't covered in the regulations manual. Because the people who wrote the regulations never imagined aliens who could make plants dance and turn mining facilities into gardens, Alina replied. I'm not capturing anyone. I'm requesting political asylum. For both of us. Jenkins nearly fell off his chair. Political asylum from who? From rigid bureaucrats who think the universe should be catalogued and filed away instead of celebrated, Alina said firmly. Lyra, your technology could revolutionize human space exploration, but only if it's shared freely, not extracted through coercion. Lyra moved closer. Her bioluminescent patterns shifting to what Alina had learned indicated deep emotion. Alina, my people have protocols about sharing advanced technology with developing species. The quantum resonance healing alone could destabilize your social structures. Then we'll figure it out together, Alina replied. Gradually, carefully, with respect for both our cultures. The facility's communication system crackled to life with Captain Morrison's voice. Dr. Vasquez, report your status immediately. We're detecting unusual energy signatures from your location. Alina looked at Lyra, who nodded toward her damaged ship's location. The repair work is causing quantum fluctuations. Your captain's instruments are probably having difficulties with the temporal distortions. Morrison, this is Alina. We've made contact with a highly advanced alien scientist who's been stranded here. She needs our help, and she's offered to share knowledge that could benefit all of humanity. Dr. Vasquez, you're supposed to capture alien specimens, not negotiate treaties with them. Jenkins leaned toward the communicator. Captain, with all due respect, the specimen could vaporize our ship with her engine exhaust. I think negotiation is the better option. Jenkins, is that you? What's your status? Physically, I'm in the best shape of my life thanks to alien medical technology. Emotionally, I'm processing the fact that I've become the comic relief in a first contact scenario. Also, I think I may have accidentally married a carnivorous plant, but the details are unclear. Alina stifled a laugh while Rodriguez shook her head in exasperation. He fed it his lunch, she explained to Lyra. Among some species, sharing food indicates pair bonding intentions. The Verdian snap bloom is now following him everywhere, Lyra confirmed. It may have adopted him. Through the communicator, Morrison's voice carried a note of barely controlled panic. Alina, I'm sending down a military extraction team in 2 hours, whatever's happening down there. Captain, wait. Alina made eye contact with Lyra, who nodded encouragingly. What if I told you we could repair the *Meridian's quantum drive efficiency problems, the ones that have been limiting our deep space range? A pause. I'd say that's impossible with current technology. Current human technology, Alina corrected. Lyra's people developed quantum harmonic resonance centuries ago. She's willing to share the knowledge, but only through voluntary cooperation. Lyra moved to her ship's communication array, which had been seamlessly integrated with the facility's systems. Captain Morrison, this is Lyra of the exploration vessel Harmony's Echo *. I formally request permission to offer technological assistance to your crew in exchange for passage to your nearest diplomatic facility. Another pause, longer this time. You're an alien. I am a xenobiologist from the Kepler 442 system, currently stranded on your planet due to mechanical difficulties. Dr. Vasquez has offered humanitarian assistance. Jenkins whispered loudly. She's being very diplomatic about the whole, you were supposed to capture her thing. Jenkins, shut up. Morrison's voice came through clearly. Lyra, what are your intentions regarding Earth and human space? To learn to share knowledge responsibly, and to establish peaceful relations between our species. Also, to prevent Dr. Jenkins from injuring himself further, as his capacity for creative accidents appears to be limitless. I heard that, Jenkins protested. Elena stepped forward. Morrison, I'm recommending we establish formal first contact protocols. Lyra's civilization is far in advance of ours, but she's been nothing but helpful and peaceful. This is the opportunity we've dreamed about. And if I refuse? Lyra's bioluminescent patterns shifted to what Elena recognized as gentle amusement. Then I will repair my ship and depart, leaving behind